Have you ever imagined hunters so silent and invisible? They used the ice itself as a weapon of death. In the far north, winter was not a passing season, it was a realm of darkness, a kingdom where the sun itself seemed to die. For weeks, sometimes months, the horizon remained frozen in twilight, and the air turned to crystal. This was the world the Vikings knew. A world where the difference between life and death depended on mastering silence, endurance, and the cold itself. In this place, the darkness was not empty. It moved, whispered, and watched. The ice spoke in cracks and echoes. The wind carried the memory of storms long gone, and even the breath of a hunter could betray his presence. Here, survival demanded something beyond strength, it demanded stillness. To live was to listen, to wait, to move with the patience of the frost. The Vikings became more than men. They were shadows carved in snow. Every footstep had purpose, every breath measured, every heartbeat synchronized with the frozen world around them. Their hunts were not acts of hunger, but of defiance, proof that humanity could challenge the Arctic's silent dominion and still return alive. In the eternal night, the line between the hunter and the hunted blurred. The ice was both ally and enemy, the darkness both cover and trap. And, within that tension between fire and frost, silence and heartbeat, the Viking spirit was forged. In the deep silence of the northern winter, every step mattered. A single crunch beneath the snow could scatter prey or summon predators from miles away. But the Vikings, masters of adaptation, found a way to turn the snow itself into an ally. Archaeologists in Scandinavia have uncovered traces of ancient snow raquettes, primitive snowshoes crafted from bent birch wood and strips of rawhide. Simple in design, yet revolutionary in purpose. These frames spread the hunter's weight across the snow, allowing him to glide instead of sink. Each step became soft, calculated, almost invisible. It wasn't just movement, it was stealth, precision, and control over an unforgiving landscape. Experimental archaeology confirms what those early craftsmen knew by instinct. Birch and leather frames could reduce sinking by as much as 70%, transforming the impossible terrain of frozen tundra into a silent highway of survival. Where an untrained wanderer would stumble knee-deep with every stride, the Viking hunter moved with ghost-like grace, crossing fields of frost without leaving a trace. Under the dim Arctic light, their silhouettes merged with the drifting snow, their breath frozen mid-air, their rhythm matching the heartbeat of the land. To move like this was to understand the language of winter, to become part of it. Each silent glide brought them closer to their prey, but it also drew them deeper into the frozen soul of the north, where silence was both shield and song. In the endless white of the Arctic, speed was useless. The snow blinded, the wind erased scent and sound, and the prey, wild reindeer, elk, or boar, moved with instincts sharpened by generations of survival. The Vikings understood this. They learned that to win in the frozen wilderness, one did not chase. One waited. One built traps so clever, so patient, that the land itself became the weapon. Archaeological finds across Scandinavia reveal a chilling brilliance in their hunting design. Instead of pursuing animals in the open, they shaped the terrain. They poured water over well-traveled paths, letting the air at -15°C seal it into glassy ice. The surface became a trap so smooth, so treacherous, that hooves slipped and panic took over. In that moment of confusion, the prey was funneled toward what appeared to be safety, but wasn't. Hidden beneath thin snowdrifts lay ditches and pits, sharpened stakes, or walls of stone arranged to corral movement. Every angle, every slope, every icy glimmer was intentional, a silent architecture of death. These weren't isolated tricks. They were systems, networks of frozen funnels, wooden stakes, and snow berms that turned entire valleys into hunting engines. To modernize, such ingenuity feels almost surgical, combining nature, geometry, and patience into one act of survival. But for the Vikings, this was not cruelty. It was necessity. In a world ruled by frost and hunger, intelligence was the sharpest blade. They didn't just walk the ice, they mastered it, weaponized it, and turned the Arctic itself into an accomplice in the hunt. In the Arctic night, silence was never truly silent. It lived, it breathed, it spoke in whispers through the ice. Every creak beneath a frozen lake, every shift of snow against rock, every distant gust of wind carried meaning. To survive here, the Vikings had to listen not with their ears alone, but with their entire being. Sound in this world was a different creature. The cold thickened the air, bending vibrations, making a single footstep echo like a shout across the tundra. Layers of ice and snow became natural amplifiers, resonating chambers that revealed more than the eye could see. A hunter who understood these sounds could read the land, feel the movement of prey long before it appeared. Archaeologists believe that Viking hunters developed ingenious tools for this acoustic world. They would place small wooden cups filled with water on the snow, and under the faint shimmer of moonlight, they watched. When an animal moved even from a distance, the vibrations rippled through the ground, trembling the water's surface. A primitive seismograph, born not from science, but from survival. Under extreme cold, where sound travels farther and clearer, these hunters could detect the faint thud of hooves or the brush of a paw more than 80 meters away. It was a kind of sixth sense, a dialogue with the frozen world itself. In that stillness, every vibration was a warning, every echo a message. The Vikings didn't fight the silence, they learned to hear within it. They listened to the heartbeat of the ice, and through that listening, they endured. In the long night of the Arctic winter, the roles of predator and prey were never fixed. A single misstep could turn the hunter into the hunted. Out there, beyond the glow of the fire, eyes gleamed in the dark, wolves pacing the edge of silence, bears stirring in their frozen dens, hunger guiding every movement. The Vikings knew this danger well. To hunt in such a world was not only to stalk, but to defend, to fight when the darkness fought back. Their survival demanded weapons built for the cold, spear tips forged with thicker edges, strengthened by traces of natural alloys that resisted brittleness in sub-zero air. Shafts shortened for control, wrapped in rawhide or tendon to keep hands from freezing to the grip. Every weapon was a calculation, shaped by necessity, tested by frost and blood. When a wolf pack closed in, or a bear emerged from the snowdrift, the Vikings didn't flee, they formed the circle. Men shoulder to shoulder, shields up, spears angled outward toward the night. In the center, a pit fire burned low and steady, its glow reflected in the ice around them like a halo of defiance. It wasn't just a defense, it was ritual, instinct, and unity. The firelight revealed determination etched into their faces, breath rising in clouds as they stood their ground. Each encounter was a reminder that they were never alone in the wilderness. The same land that fed them also tested them, and in that frozen battlefield, survival became an art, a rhythm of courage, fear, and fierce respect for the predators that shared their world. For the Vikings, the hunt was never one-sided. It was a balance between man and beast, between dominance and endurance, between life and the long, watching dark. In the heart of Arctic winter, darkness was never complete. Even under a sunless sky, a faint, icy radiance lingered, the ghost of the moon stretching across frozen plains. For those who understood its language, this light was not an obstacle but a weapon. The Vikings, ever the students of nature, learned to see what others could not. They watched how the moonlight bent across ice, how snow reflected it into a silver haze. Through patience and observation, they mastered a skill few possessed, reading the world not by brightness, but by reflection. Archaeological findings suggest they crafted crude reflectors from polished bone, shards of translucent glass, even carved ice. These simple tools could catch the moon's glow and throw it farther across the landscape, illuminating paths, traps, and hunting grounds where torches would betray their position. Camouflage, too, became an art. Animal hides were coated in chalk and rubbed with a thin layer of fat, muting color and killing glare. Under the moon's blue shimmer, such coatings blended seamlessly into the snow. No shine, no shadow, only movement disguised as wind. Their prey, and even rival predators, saw nothing but the shifting texture of ice. Where others stumbled through the night, blind and cold, the Vikings moved like ghosts guided not by fire, but by the pale reflection of the world around them. They didn't conquer darkness, they partnered with it. To them, the Arctic night was alive with gradients and whispers of light, a silent map drawn in shades of blue and silver. And within that spectral glow, they learned the oldest lesson of survival, that mastery is not found in strength, but in seeing what the world hides in plain sight. In the deep freeze of the northern world, even iron could betray its master. At -20 degrees Celsius, steel lost its memory, ropes turned to bone, and weapons once sharp and proud snapped like brittle glass. The Vikings knew this truth all too well. They learned that in the Arctic, war and the hunt were not fought with muscle alone, but with innovation forged by frost. Traditional blades shattered on frozen bone, leather bindings stiffened until they tore like bark. A single failure in the cold could mean death not from the enemy, but from the elements themselves. So the Vikings adapted, reshaping their weapons for the ice realm. Their winter spears were shorter, thicker, designed not for elegance but for endurance. The tips were forged with angled edges that cut through frozen hide and ice-packed snow without fracturing. Traces of natural alloys, phosphorus, nickel, even carbon from the bog iron they smelted, gave the metal flexibility, allowing it to bend instead of break. Each spear was a study in survival, engineered by necessity and tested by the cruelty of the season. Wooden shafts were wrapped tightly with sinew or leather, not for decoration, but protection, preventing frostbite and keeping the grip alive in a world where wood itself could freeze and splinter. Modern experimental reconstructions have proven what they once knew by instinct. These weapons could pierce frozen turf at -15 degrees Celsius, cutting through the ground as if it were flesh. For the Vikings, every weapon was more than a tool, it was a pact with the cold. Each blade carried the memory of those who refused to yield to winter. Forged in fire, tempered in ice, these were instruments not of conquest, but of endurance. A reminder that even in a land ruled by frost, human ingenuity could still carve a path through the impossible. For the Vikings, survival went far beyond tools or weapons. It was written into the body itself. Centuries of enduring the Arctic's merciless chill had shaped them, carved adaptation into their very bones. Archaeologists, examining ancient skeletal remains, have found dense, compact ribs and vertebrae, the kind forged by years of cold exposure and physical strain. These weren't just warriors. They were organisms engineered by their environment. Flesh and bone evolved for endurance. The Viking body was a furnace of survival. When the world froze, their lifeline came from fat, pure, concentrated energy. In the darkest months, up to 60% of their diet came from marrow, seal oil, and fatty fish pulled from beneath the ice. Each meal was a calculated act of thermodynamics, feeding the body's inner fire when the air itself tried to extinguish it. Modern research confirms what they already knew by instinct. Such diets could elevate metabolism and sustain core warmth, even in temperatures that killed the unprepared. Their clothing reflected the same philosophy of layered intelligence. First, a skin of inner warmth animal hides, wrapped tight. Then layers of fur and woven fiber, stitched with air pockets that trapped body heat like invisible armor. Even moss, dried and packed beneath leather, served as insulation against the cruel bite of frost. Every movement was efficient, every heartbeat deliberate, every breath a balance between energy spent and heat retained. They understood their physiology not as limitation, but as weapon. To endure was to fight not with steel or flame, but with blood, bone, and breath. In the Arctic, the cold was the true enemy. And the Vikings' greatest invention wasn't forged in fire, it was the human body itself, refined by the elements until it became the ultimate tool for survival. In the frozen north, survival was not a solo act, it was a choreography. The Vikings hunted not as individuals, but as synchronized machines of instinct and discipline. There was no shouting, no clashing of weapons, no sound to betray their intent. Only the whisper of breath, the crunch of distant snow, and the rhythm of silent cooperation. Archaeological evidence reveals something extraordinary. Patterns of ancient footprints preserved in frost-hardened soil. They form arcs, triangles, and semicircles, deliberate formations used to steer prey. Each position had purpose, each movement connected to the next, like notes in a song only the hunters could hear. Communication in these hunts was visual, not verbal. A tilt of the head replaced a command. A lifted hand or a shift of weight could signal an entire group to move or freeze. It was strategy performed in silence, the body itself becoming the language of survival. Modern researchers have tested this ancient method. In one remarkable experiment, 12 trained participants recreated the Viking formation and, without a single word spoken, managed to corral deer with an 87% success rate. No sound, only coordination, awareness, and trust. To witness such precision is to understand the mind of a hunter shaped by ice and time. Every gesture mattered. Every heartbeat was part of a larger design. They didn't just hunt animals, they mastered the mathematics of movement, the psychology of silence, the art of unity. In a world where the cold punished the careless, cooperation was their greatest weapon. The collective hunt wasn't just a tactic. It was a reflection of something deeper, a belief that survival itself depended not on strength alone, but on harmony between human minds, moving as one beneath the endless Arctic sky. In the end, the hunt was never just about food. It was a dialogue with the land, a conversation between life and the endless cold that surrounded it. Every kill was a promise, every fire a prayer whispered into the frozen wind. For the Vikings, survival was sacred, and the Arctic itself was alive, an ancient presence to be respected, not conquered. Archaeological traces tell the story. Circles of bones arranged with deliberate symmetry. Ash pits where small fires once burned beside carved antlers. Objects laid carefully beneath layers of ice offerings to something unseen. These weren't mere rituals of superstition. They were acts of balance, gestures of gratitude toward the spirits of the animals that had given their lives. To the Viking hunter, every creature carried a message. The reindeer, the seal, the bear, each was a teacher in endurance and adaptation. Killing one was not victory. It was acceptance into a cycle as old as winter itself. They believed the land watched, remembered, and tested those who walked upon it. Disrespect meant misfortune. Arrogance invited death. Around flickering fires, they spoke softly to the bones of their prey, their words rising with the smoke to the indifferent stars. They placed talismans beneath the ice, tokens of humility, of understanding that survival came not from dominance, but from harmony with the frozen world. In the Arctic, they learned the ultimate lesson, that the greatest weapon was not iron or flame, but mindset. Respect the terrain, respect the silence, respect the winter, because to live here was not to defeat the cold. It was to become part of it, to walk the edge between life and nothingness, and to bow quietly before the vast and beautiful void of the north. If this journey into the frozen minds of the Vikings moved you, join us at Prehistoric Shadows, where the past is more than myth, it's survival, science, and soul. Explore deeper, subscribe, and walk the silent trails of our ancestors.